After weeks of speculation, it's time for the big reveal. It's deal day for Ottawa and Alberta. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
Navigating the issues that matter to you. It's Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
Within the last 20 minutes, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith welcomed Prime Minister Mark Carney to Alberta as the two leaders prepare to sign a wide-ranging memorandum of understanding on energy policy. And just a few minutes ago, both made some opening remarks before heading to a signing ceremony.
Thank you to the Prime Minister for being here today, and this is a really great day for Albertans. We have been working for some time on addressing the 9 bad laws, as I like to call them, that have been impacting our investment climate here, and I'm pleased that we've reached an agreement to substantially work on removing and revising those laws. I think what it's going to do, especially with the removal of the emissions cap on Alberta, as well as the removal of the net zero power regs, I think it's going to unleash an incredible amount of investment and allow us to work together on important nation building projects. So it's the first step, I think, of what will be a few more steps we have to take together, but I'm very pleased that the Prime Minister has heard our concerns and responded to them.
Thank you very much, Premier. And look, it's a great day for Alberta. It's a great day for Canada. And at the heart of what is a multifaceted agreement, we have more work to do going forward, but a multifaceted agreement. In effect, it creates an energy transition, all aspects of energy, but really sets the stage for an industrial transformation. At the core of the agreement, of course, is a priority to have a pipeline to Asia. That's going to make Canada stronger, more independent, more resilient, more sustainable, because the way we're going to do that is in combination with the Pathways project, which will be the largest carbon capture project in the world. It'll mean that Alberta barrels of bitumen are amongst the lowest energy intensive in the world, therefore competitive not just for tomorrow, but for decades, as well as creating a whole new industry for Alberta and for Canada. In addition, agreements, or at least intentions around nuclear power, interties with other provinces, sovereign data centers, huge opportunity, huge necessity for Alberta and for Canada. And it's all done in a spirit of cooperation, partnership, and trust. So as the Premier just referenced, some adjustments to regulations, adjustments here in terms of strengthening the tier system, methane regs, enhancing methane regs, a cooperation agreement on regulation, which will help us move forward more efficiently and effectively. And also, just on the point of cooperation, at the heart of this is cooperation and partnership with Indigenous peoples in Alberta, in British Columbia, as they're affected. Unprecedented opportunities for Indigenous ownership, partnership, economic benefits, as well as substantial economic benefits for the people of British Columbia. So this is Canada working. This is cooperative federalism. This is Canada building with Alberta, building with Canada, building for today, but building very much for the future. And I'm very grateful, Premier, for your hard work and the hard work of your team to get us to this point. We've got more work to do, but we're going to work hard to do it.
Prime Minister Carney with Alberta Premier Danielle Smith just moments ago. They just held a signing ceremony, so signed, sealed, and delivered. Now, back at Ottawa, this has been the issue on Parliament Hill all week. There have been reports some Liberal MPs are unhappy with this development. In the run-up to today, it was reported some Liberals were hopping mad that Mr. Carney would sign a deal with Danielle Smith. Some of them are staunch environmentalists. Others are BC MPs who fear they'll lose their seats in the next election if they're seen to be supporting a pipeline. There were even rumors that the former Environment Minister, Stephen Guilbeault, was thinking about quitting. But apparently, after a conversation with the Prime Minister, he has decided to stick around. As for the political opposition, they all have their own takes, and none of them are kind to the government. For example, this is the leader of the Bloc Québécois, Yves-François Blanchet. He is a former Quebec provincial environment minister, and he slammed the Prime Minister, saying he duped the voters.
He has a problem which has been described by many analysts. If he succeeds having a pipeline through British Columbia, it has to go through a veto, so that could be quite a challenge, and he would have a challenge within his own caucus, because a lot of those people have been under Mr. Trudeau's as Prime Minister. And if he does not succeed, it's one more failure, a failure within a failure within a failure for this government, which has been elected pretending things which he did not even begin achieving. So people will have to start seriously if they have been misled in the campaign.
A lot of pressure from Alberta, obviously.
Sorry? Je vais juste finir.
He's getting a lot of pressure from Alberta, obviously.
Yeah, but don't promise things that you cannot deliver or that you should not deliver. That's what politics should be all about.
Now, for the Conservative Party leader, Pierre Poilievre, he has been calling today's events in Calgary nothing more than another Carney PR stunt. And in the House of Commons this week, he's been asking the Prime Minister and cabinet ministers like the Energy Minister, Tim Hodgson, why the Liberals would give the BC government a veto over a pipeline to the West Coast.
The good news is that David Eby, the Premier of BC, has absolutely no constitutional authority to block a pipeline. The bad news is that this Prime Minister does. Under Section 9210A of the British North American Act, works between provinces are exclusively the federal government's responsibility. So will the Prime Minister stop hiding behind the powerless Premier, get out of the way, and approve a pipeline to the Pacific today?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, I'd invite the member opposite to buy a ticket to Calgary tomorrow to see how a federal government works with the provincial government to build Canada strong.
Leader of the Opposition.
Tomorrow, the Prime Minister will wave around in the air a worthless piece of paper that he says that the Premier of BC can veto any time he wants. Here's the political problem he has. Canadians want a pipeline. They know it's the best way to get our resources to market going around the United States of America, but his Keep It in the Ground caucus is standing in the way. Why doesn't he stand up to them and stand up for Canada?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Maybe the member opposite should explain to his constituents why the Premier of Alberta wants to stand beside our Prime Minister and talk about how to build Canada strong.
That was yesterday in the House of Commons, and now Premier Danielle Smith has signed the Memorandum of Understanding with Prime Minister Carney. The Prime Minister, for his part, and the rest of his day, he is now off to a photo op with some workers in the skilled trades. And then in about 2 hours from now, he will have an event at the Calgary Chamber of Commerce. He'll deliver a speech, and then he will have a question and answer session with the president of the chamber. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio. He's my friend on the right side of things. Michael Taube is with us today, syndicated columnist and speechwriter for former Prime Minister Stephen Harper. Welcome back.
Hey, Rob. How are you doing today?
Yeah, very good. And you're the first person we speak to today who gets to react to the breaking news.
Yeah.
The Memorandum of Understanding has been signed between the Mark Carney government and the Danielle Smith government. What do you think it's all about?
Well, I mean, obviously, a lot of the pertinent details will come out, but so far it looks pretty good. Just as I was waiting to start the segment, I've been looking at some stuff. To quote from the Edmonton Journal, who I guess gets first credit on it from me, the memorandum sets out how the two governments will work to build a new pipeline, which Ottawa describes as a project of national interest and will be capable of carrying 1 million barrels per day to Asian markets. And it also calls for similar collaboration on the construction of the Pathways Plus Carbon Capture and Storage project, which Carney has described as a necessary precondition for any future oil pipeline, as well as a reduction in methane emissions by 75% over the next decade. Now, all sounds good. I'm not going to deny that. And regardless of what I am politically, it all sounds positive. Both Mark Carney and Danielle Smith should be pleased with it. But an MOU is just that, an MOU. And the understanding of something and the actual construction of something can be very different. It can be held up. There could be problems. There could be changes later on. But I always am fair. Thus far, from what I see of it, which is very basic, it looks good.
How much of this do you view as a peace agreement? This is a peace agreement in some ways, Michael, between Alberta and Ottawa, is it not?
Well, I mean, I usually associate peace agreements with in times of war, and I wouldn't necessarily say that, although there have been quote-unquote warring factions in terms of how the Alberta government and the federal government have looked at things. So if you want to use that semantic, that's fine. But
okay.
certainly it's a positive development, and no one should say otherwise. And even if you are a conservative like me and dislike this Liberal government, you know, the old theory, a broken clock is right twice a day. So Mark Carney has one more today somewhere, but this is a good sign. It's a good start in the right direction, and it's an important thing that, to be perfectly honest, conservatives have called for a long time. Pipelines, more of them.
Yeah, from the MOU, Canada and Alberta agree to engage with British Columbia immediately in a trilateral discussion on the pipeline project and during the potential development and construction of the bitumen pipeline referred to in this MOU, and to further the economic interests of BC related to their own project of interest that involve the province of Alberta, including interties, so having to do with electricity moving back and forth between British Columbia and the province of Alberta. So there was some question about this. Will there ever be a pipeline to British Columbia as long as the Prime Minister, which he's been saying this week, as long as a pipeline project needs the buy-in of the province of British Columbia and, say, coastal First Nations, which are adamantly opposed to such a project? Where do you think things stand with that as of now?
Yeah, and that'll be interesting when Native Canadian communities and band leaders start to speak out. We'll see what they're thinking on it. Certainly, the MOU addresses, at least in principle, some of the concerns that they've had, and whether you think they're nonsense or they're important, these are obviously things that have to be discussed when you're going to build a pipeline and when there's going to be things such as interprovincial trade, or in this case, the shifting or the usage of a pipeline between, in this case, Alberta and BC. So you have to have all sides, on side, so to speak. And that's why I said an MOU is an MOU. It sounds good in principle, but the theory of it and the actual construction could be very different. Hypothetically, and I'm not putting words in anybody's mouth, but if there are Native Canadian communities and leaders who speak out against it, well, one, they'll have to sort of show why. Two, they'll have to prove that the MOU has flaws and what they think should be fixed. And three, will then be up to Mark Carney, Danielle Smith, and others to engage with them and try to hopefully deal with it in some fashion, bring everything to a head, so to speak, or find a separate solution or direction. But as of right now, it appears as if, at least for Native Canadian leaders, environmental groups, and others, their concerns, whether you think they're important or not that crucial, have been addressed. So that's a good thing, and you want to have that no matter what.
Okay, we'll be right back with more from Michael Taube, syndicated columnist, speechwriter for former Prime Minister Stephen Harper. This is Now You Know on News Radio.
No question goes unasked or unanswered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow returns on News Radio.
I am here with Michael Taube, syndicated columnist and speechwriter for former Prime Minister Stephen Harper. But I'm going to preempt us, Michael, because Premier Smith is speaking to news reporters right now. So why don't we join this? Let's go to this.
These Albertans are mothers and fathers and young people working so hard to put food on the table, to pay for hockey and soccer fees, and to save for the down payment on their first home. These are also small business owners that too often have found themselves as well in their business working very hard to build due to regulatory environment environment that has made it almost impossible for them to succeed. And more broadly, the last 10 years have left hundreds of thousands of Albertans skeptical and oftentimes questioning the long-term viability of our nation as we watched its deliberate phase-out of our province's most valuable asset, leaving it trapped and wasted in the vast oil sands of northern Alberta, and with it, innumerable lost investment opportunities and tens of thousands of lost jobs. These were dark times, but in those difficult circumstances, Albertans came together, as we always do, to raise our voices and use our ingenuity to find a way to overcome the challenge. We fought and won in the courts of law. We fought and won in the court of public opinion. And we fought because we had to, because that's what Albertans do. We always fight very hard for this province that we love so dearly and for its incredible people. But Albertans are also proud and loyal Canadians. We don't fight for the sake of fighting. We don't look for conflict when there is an opportunity for peace and prosperity. Albertans are happiest when we are hard at work getting things done, solving problems, creating opportunities, building our province and our country. That is when we are truly at our best. However, in order for Alberta to find its way to prosperity within a united Canada, we need the federal government to partner with us instead of fighting against us. Now, Prime Minister Mark Carney and I may not always agree on everything, but we do share a few key beliefs. We both know that Canada can never reach its true potential as a global energy superpower without a strong and thriving Alberta energy sector at the center of that effort. And I am pleased to say that this Prime Minister has made it clear to me that he is willing to work with me and Alberta's government to accomplish that shared goal. And that, my friends, is something that we have not seen from a Canadian Prime Minister in over a decade. And it is my firm belief that Albertans from right across the political spectrum, whether they be staunch federal Conservatives or Liberals or New Democrats or something else, they expect me as their Premier to partner with this federal government to seize this long-awaited opportunity for our province. I've spoken at length about the need to build more pipeline infrastructure, to export more oil to hungry Asian markets, and to diversify our customer base. I have repeatedly stated how critical it is to reform a broken regulatory environment that is scaring away investment and demoralizing our energy entrepreneurs here at home. And I have asked repeatedly for the federal government to cease their attempts to throttle our energy industry, repeal or overhaul their 9 bad laws, and work with Alberta to grow our energy sector for the benefit of the entire country. And today's agreement is the first step in accomplishing all of these critical objectives and unleashing the power and promise of Alberta's energy sector in a way never seen before in this country. This agreement means the end of the punitive oil and gas emissions cap so that our great energy producers can grow and thrive again. This agreement means the immediate suspension of the federal net zero power regulations in Alberta, which had placed our electrical grid at a very serious risk of failure and limited any hope of substantial investment in AI data centers and applications development. This agreement
live news event from Alberta Premier Danielle Smith on the signing of the MOU with Prime Minister Carney, which has now happened within the last hour in Calgary. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now you know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio.
It's time for our Thursday Newsday political panel. I am joined today by Jordan Paquet. He's Vice President at Bluesky Strategy Group, and Deirdra Tindale, Vice President at Crestview Strategy. But we are all going to be on hold for a moment and listen as Alberta Premier Danielle Smith takes some questions from the news media following the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding with the federal government. Let's listen in here.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Now, I think
Thank
Sam
you,
Blackett
Premier.
is somewhere moderating questions. Oh, there he is.
Yes,
Over
we'll
in
now
the back.
start the media Q&A. We are tight in time today. We'll be taking one question, one follow-up per usual. Please state your name and outlet before asking your question, and we'll start off at our mic in the room. Go ahead.
All right, Heather Yurix-West from Global National. Thanks for taking my question.
Yeah.
What is your view, Premier, of the power of BC or a First Nation to veto a potential pipeline deal? The MOU talks a lot about consultation, but what happens if an agreement can't be reached?
Well, as you can see, the MOU does not contain a veto. But I think that we both recognize jointly that there is a requirement for consultation. And indeed, we believe that there's an imperative for Indigenous ownership. We created the Alberta Indigenous Opportunities Corporation, and it expanded its ability to underwrite up to $3 billion worth of loan guarantees. I see British Columbia also has a similar program. The federal government has a similar program. And so Minister Sawney has already begun the engagement. She's been to Kitimat, she's been to Prince Rupert, she's been talking with BC and Alberta nations. And we know that that's hard work that needs to be done, that we will do, we intend to do, and we're looking forward to having genuine consultation and ownership. And as for Premier Eby, I spoke with him last night. And there's lots in the agreement that we can focus on together, where he is supportive of the expansion of the Trans Mountain pipeline capacity. He is supportive of interties and working with us on nuclear. He's supportive of working with us on expanding additional LNG export as well as ammonia. So may not be in agreement with everything that is in this proposal, but we're going to have trilateral talks to make sure that we can move forward on the elements in this plan.
And my follow-up, do you think this MOU will be enough to distinguish, quell any remaining separatist sentiment that may remain in Alberta?
I hope so. I mean, I had always felt that the former government of Justin Trudeau created the independence movement, and my first conversations with Prime Minister Mark Carney were that he could end it. He could take the wind out of it. Because we saw this once before. We saw that independence sentiment was very high in the early 1980s when there was the National Energy Program. But when Brian Mulroney came in and reversed that policy, it disappeared. So I would say that good policy and genuinely addressing the concerns of Albertans is always a pathway to have a good and solid relationship. And I think the Prime Minister understands that. Certainly, based on this agreement, it shows he does, and so I'm hopeful.
Thanks.
Hi, Premier. Ezra Levant from Rebel News. The first deadline in the MOU, if I'm reading it right, is April, where the duty is on Alberta to jack up carbon taxes. And the last date in the MOU, if I'm reading it right, correct me if I'm not, is 2040. That's when this pipeline, that's sort of the end date. It can't be any later than that. In terms of building trust with the anti-oil liberals, they're asking Alberta to raise carbon taxes now for a promise of an oil pipeline years or even more than a decade in the future. Does that really build trust?
Well, you have to start somewhere. And one thing I would say is that we did have the Supreme Court of Canada rule on the federal government's ability to set a price on emissions. So the Supreme Court has ruled on that. It's part of the reason why we negotiated a stringency agreement that would have seen the carbon tax price go up to $170 a barrel by 2030. We've demonstrated, and I think the Prime Minister agrees, that's too high, too fast. So that's why we understand that there was always going to be a negotiation around that. We froze the carbon tax at $95, pending consultation with the industry and greater work with the Prime Minister. But remember, Alberta was the first to have an industrial carbon price. They did we implemented that in 2007. It's generated revenues that have allowed us to invest billions of dollars in new technologies, including carbon capture. So there is a commitment on the part of the industry to have a carbon price, and we did do some consultation on that. We're just glad that we have the means to manage it our way in Alberta under our TIER program, and you'll see as of April 1st, and no, that wasn't a joke. April 1st is going to be the date that we have an agreement on that front. When it comes to the building of a bitumen pipeline to Asian markets to the BC coast. Though, if you read the MOU, those two things have to happen in tandem. That we have to see the Pathways project proceeding at the same time as an agreement to build that. One is dependent on the other. I don't know that the Prime Minister would have agreed to a new bitumen pipeline without Pathways, and we wouldn't have agreed to Pathways without a new bitumen pipeline. So they are going to be staged They are going to go on together. We've already had a meeting with Pathways about how we're going to do that. That will require a trilateral negotiation as well. But I'm very hopeful. Since we have used carbon capture technology before for enhanced oil recovery, that's another part of this announcement, is that CO2 will be able to be used for enhanced oil recovery, which should allow us to generate more revenue. So I would say that you don't always get 100% of what you want, but we addressed 7 out of the 9 bad laws that I'd put on the table to, I think, what will be the satisfaction of Albertans. And I think that this will allow us to see some substantial investments.
I mean, that's the thing about it.
Okay. Very much a victory lap sort of day, it seems, for the Alberta Premier Danielle Smith, sounding very happy with what her government has secured from Prime Minister Carney's government in Ottawa. We'll get some instant analysis coming up next from our political strategist. This is News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
Let's get our panelists on for some instant reaction to all the fast-moving developments today. Jordan Paquet is here, Vice President, Bluesky Strategy Group. Hi, Jordan.
Hey, Rob. How you doing?
Very good. Thanks for being patient and hanging in there. Deirdra Tindale is here, Vice President at Crestview Strategy. Hi, Deirdra.
Hi, Rob.
And same thing. Thank you for your patience. So, Deirdra, I mean, let's start with you. It sounds like a big day for Premier Danielle Smith. She's very happy with what she says she has secured from Ottawa. What do you think of it all?
It certainly sounds like it's a new day for Canada-Alberta relations. And it definitely sounds like a major score for Danielle Smith on the eve of her party's AGM that, of course, kicks off tomorrow. So I think Premier Smith is looking really good out of all of this. It's language that we probably would have expected to see, talking about building a stronger, more competitive and more sustainable economy. And frankly, I think this is the space in which the Prime Minister and his Energy Minister Tim Hodgson are most comfortable, right? They're talking about economics. They're demonstrating movement, maybe not quite action, but they're demonstrating some kind of movement. And the one phrase that stood out most to me that I was particularly happy to read was the talk about decreasing regulatory uncertainty, because we know that this has been prohibitive to investment in our country, and it's long been a complaint by the resources sector. So I was happy to see that that's being acknowledged, and this hopefully moves things away from that.
Jordan, what do you think?
No, well, I agree. I think this is a good day for Premier Smith. I think she can absolutely take a bit of a victory lap. There were times last spring where she was receiving quite a bit of unfair criticism, I would say, from other parts of the country, just given her stance. But I think with her resolve to stick to it, they were able to get to this point. Now, I think this is the very first step in a very long process. I do like to consider myself somebody that sees the glass half full, but this is just one step. There's a lot of things that have to happen, and I think before investors are actually willing to contribute into a project like this, there's still a few other things that have to move forward. We've seen before where companies have meet all the criteria set out by various levels of government, and then the federal government unilaterally changes something. So this is a project that's going to happen over the next number of years. It's probably going to cycle through a few different governments, possibly different political parties. So we'll see where it ends up. But I think overall, it's certainly a day that Premier Smith can claim a big win.
To Deirdre's point, how much of this is a reset of the relationship between Ottawa and Alberta, Jordan?
I think it's a big reset, of course. I mean, things probably couldn't have gotten much worse beyond maybe in the Trudeau senior days than they were in the Trudeau junior days. And it was just very bad. I mean, you've seen Stephen Guilbeault when he was Minister of the Environment. The Premier straight up called him a menace to Alberta. So there was, it was just a very big point where it was, where it wasn't, it couldn't get any worse, really, I don't think, to the point that some of the separatism elements were fueling up. Now, I think this will tone some of it down for a bit, as the Premier seemed to allude to. My fear, I suppose, is that if there's all this goodwill going into this, and then right at the last minute, either Premier Eby puts up a block, the federal government gets cold feet, it could just bring that right up again. So I think it's just we got to be really cautious here on going forward on it, and hopefully everyone's pushing forward in good faith.
And Deirdre, on that point, where do you think things stand right now with the government of British Columbia and coastal First Nations? What does this mean for the so-called veto?
Well, what we heard in that clip from Premier Smith was that the MOU does not contain a veto, but rather a requirement for consultation. And she suggested that maybe she started that consultation with her BC counterpart last night. She was very quick to point out that there are elements in this that Premier Eby is supportive of. And I think that's probably key here, is that people are going to want to focus on the word pipeline. But I think there's so much else in the MOU that can be done before the pipeline, because as we know, there is still no proponent who has come forward to fund and build a pipeline. So it'll be tempting to focus on that. But I think there are so many other things that can be done. And I think that's probably maybe not completely an out for Premier Eby, but as a way for him to be working constructively with the province of Alberta on helping to do some of these other things as outlined.
Okay. We'll be right back. Where does Pierre Poilievre go from here is one of the questions I will have for our panelists. How does the leader of the Conservative Party at the federal level oppose a deal that has now been so embraced by the Conservative Premier of Alberta? This is News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
We're back with Jordan Paquet, Vice President at Bluesky Strategy Group, and Deirdra Tindale, Vice President at Crestview Strategy. Well, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith is very happy. The Prime Minister is very happy. How does Pierre Poilievre oppose a deal that the Conservative Premier of Alberta is praising and is so willing to sign? How does he do that, Deirdra?
I don't think his messaging deviates much from what he said yesterday in the House of Commons. He will call this another one of those grand announcements that the Prime Minister likes to make. This is another project that will be referred to an office that to date has not produced anything tangible while still in early days, referring to the Major Projects Office. And I think Pierre Poilievre's bottom line will continue to be, when will we see a pipeline built? He doesn't actually even have to focus on the rest of the MOU. He can focus solely on the pipeline. And what he knows to be true is that there's no proponent. Yesterday in the House, the Prime Minister indicated that while there is no veto, effectively it sounds like he's giving one to Premier Eby. And so I think that is the line of questioning that Pierre Poilievre will continue with.
Okay. What do you think, Jordan?
I agree with Deirdre. This isn't too tough a position for Pierre Poilievre at all. He can really hold the Prime Minister's feet to the fire on this and expose some of those breaks inside the Liberal caucus. And we've seen a number of Liberal MPs who've been out either on background or on the record criticizing any potential of a pipeline going to the West Coast. We've seen the Premier Eby basically saying he doesn't want it. So I don't know how they're going to get to yes on this, but I think it would be incumbent on Pierre Poilievre, and I think that's what he's going to continue to do, is to really continue to press the Prime Minister and say, this is all great and well, you want to have this communications announcement, but are you actually going to put your back into this? Are you actually going to get out and champion a project once it comes forward?
Okay. Look, we can only speculate, but what do you think the Prime Minister really told the nervous Nellies in his own caucus about this? Now, we've heard reports, Deirdre, for example, that people are hopping mad, but yet Mr. Guilbeault appears to be placated to the extent that he's not leaving or going anywhere. What do you think? What did the Prime Minister say to his own MPs, do you think?
Well, I don't know that he would have used these stats, but I think it's worth pointing out that in March 2015, 67% of Canadians said protecting the environment should be a priority. And last month, that number was down to 35%. So I'm going to suggest that the Prime Minister approach this with probably three main points. One of them was likely that this is unlikely to be a ballot question whenever the next election comes. And so MPs should probably stop worrying that this is ultimately what is going to cost them their seats. And I would also suggest that one of the main points he raised might have been the fact that there's no pipeline being built tomorrow. So let's maybe focus on the good news that this announcement represents for the country as a whole, right? Talking about national unity, but reminding them that there's actually nothing to be afraid of at this moment.
Okay, very interesting. Jordan, what do you think?
This is going to be the Prime Minister's big challenge. And he is, as we've seen, he's not an incredibly experienced politician. So he's in Calgary today. He's saying a good message that the Premier and that Albertans, I think, can get behind. That's all well and good. But next week, if he's out in BC, if he's touring in BC, if he's touring in Quebec, what happens if he accidentally speaks out of both sides of his mouth again and hints that, you know what, don't worry about this, we might not actually get there. I think that's going to be the challenge. And if we start seeing signals like that, it won't only be his own caucus that'll start breaking apart, but it'll be a lot of that goodwill that Albertans have shown over the last couple months to get to this point. And that's just going to be really bad for the Federation overall.
All right. Thank you so much. Great instant analysis. I'm glad we could get you on to interpret what we know so far. Thanks again. We'll speak soon.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Deirdra.
Yeah. Deirdra Tindale is vice president at Crestview Strategy, and Jordan Paquet is vice president at Bluesky Strategy Group. I'm Rob Snow. Talkback is coming up next, right after the latest breaking news on a very busy news day. This is News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
And welcome to Talkback. 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. And today, right direction or wrong direction? Right direction, wrong direction. A classic question that we ask from time to time on this show. And it's been about 6 months since the last time we asked you this question. We want to ask it today, given this big deal that's been signed between Ottawa and Alberta, but for a whole host of other reasons as well. This question: do you think the country is moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? Do you think the country is moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. Think about this deal today between Ottawa and Alberta. A step in the right direction? What would you say? The last time we asked you this question, summer was just getting underway. Now in many parts of the country, summer is but a distant memory. The temperatures are falling. There is snow on the ground, and people are putting up their Christmas lights. But a lot of the issues are still the same. Will we build a pipeline? There's still no deal between Canada and the United States on trade. Canadian industries are still being hit with tariffs. The cost of living remains a major source of anxiety for millions and millions of Canadians who are worried about their household finances and who are struggling to keep up with higher costs for food, higher costs for housing, and all the other bills that come our way in the course of a month. People are worried increasingly about job security, with 1.5 million people unemployed. We've seen strikes. We've seen strikes by workers at Canada Post, teachers in Alberta, earlier in the year, cabin crews at Air Canada. There are concerns about the healthcare system, long wait times, shortages of doctors and nurses, the rise of private, for-profit healthcare. Many Canadians have changed their opinions about immigration and think the immigration system is broken and in need of major reforms. Crime and public safety is constantly in the news, with never-ending stories about shootings and stabbings, smash and grab thefts from jewelry stores, car thefts, carjackings, home invasions. Into all of this has stepped Mark Carney. He's been the Prime Minister since winning the Liberal leadership in March of this year, and Canadians in enough numbers decided he was the best person to deal with these issues as Prime Minister. He won an election in April. He has been to the White House twice. he may pay another visit there soon. His government will soon pass a budget with a very large deficit of almost $80 billion. And today in Calgary, for a big day, maybe one of the biggest days since he's been prime minister. And he has now signed this deal with the Alberta Premier Danielle Smith that maybe someday will lead to another pipeline from northern Alberta to the northwest coast of BC. It's a big day. It's a big day because it suggests a reset of a very important relationship after 10 years of constant battles between Liberals in Ottawa and Conservatives in Alberta. Big day for the Prime Minister, a big day for the Premier of Alberta, and maybe the start of something new, maybe a good day for the country. We'll have to wait and see. But when you think about the state of the country right now, where we are and where we're going, when you think about everything that has happened this year with Trudeau leaving and Carney taking over, with Poilievre losing and attempting a comeback, with Trump saying nice things about Carney only to blow up trade talks over a TV commercial from the Ford government in Ontario, when you think about the state of our relationship with the United States and where things stand with that, when you think about the state of the Canadian economy, when you think about what's happening with Canadians and their household budgets and paying for the basics and trying to stay employed, when you think about the healthcare system and the education system and not just what's going on in the country, but in your own community with issues like housing affordability and public safety, when you consider all of these things and when you weigh the good against the bad, what do you think about where this country is headed right now? Canada. Do you think Canada is moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? If you think it's moving in the right direction, why do you think that? What does Canada have going for it right now? Where is the country doing better than it used to be? If you think the country is moving in the wrong direction, why do you think that? And what do you think could get the country moving in the right direction or a better direction? There are really no wrong answers. We welcome all opinions. Right direction, wrong direction. Is the country moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577 is our call-in line. If you've never called before, just mention that, and we'll make your call a priority. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. It's Talkback. And this is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
So we're asking a question today that we ask a few times a year, and it's been almost 6 months since we last asked you this. Right direction, wrong direction. Do you think Canada is moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? If you think it's the right direction, why do you say that? If it's the wrong direction, why do you say that? 1-833-668-2577. A few lines available there. Love to hear from you on Talkback today. Let's go to Dartmouth. Rick is in Dartmouth. Hi, Rick.
How you doing, Rob?
Yeah, very good, Rick. Yeah, good to hear from you. What's your opinion?
Well, I think we're moving in the wrong direction because I think it's just Liberals blowing smoke up our butt. Because really, if we're in an economic war, which they claim we are, and it appears we are, that pipeline, 14, 15 years to build a pipeline, that's ridiculous. The war will be over and we have lost. That should be pushed through in 2 to 3 years, period, and that's the point Pierre Poilievre is going to push.
Okay. Well, you have to find a company to build it, do you not?
Not necessarily. If it's of economic
Not necessarily?
maybe the government should. No, not necessarily.
Okay, that's what happened with Trans Mountain. That's what happened with the Trans Mountain pipeline. The government had to build it. It was supposed to be a $5 billion project. It turned out to be a $35 billion project.
Really, does it really matter how much money it's going to cost? I'm here in Nova Scotia, and our premier, God love him, said that we need a hospital. And it doesn't matter how much it costs. Let's build it. Let's do it. Get it done, period. And he's doing it. And that's what needs to be done here. Real men are for real times, and I don't think Carney's a real man. All they're doing, like I say, is blowing smoke at us. 15 years to build a pipeline and no guarantee it will be built by 2040. That's ridiculous. Just like I say, it's just the Liberals finding another way to try to win the next election and blow smoke up our
Okay. Okay. All right. You would like to see things move a lot faster than they're moving. They're moving too slow for you. That's your gripe, right?
Yeah, exactly. They postponed it for the last 10, 12 years. And now all of a sudden, okay, well, we'll build one, but it'll take another 15 years. No, that's unacceptable.
It's unacceptable. Okay. All right. Thank you, Rick. You've got us off and running, sir. Scott in Kitchener. Hello, Scott.
Good afternoon, Rob. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good, Scott. Thanks. Right direction or wrong direction? What do you think?
You know what? Your previous caller stole out of my thunder. I think if remember back in the not so long ago that Carney said the nation building jobs, we're going to crush them and get them done. Well, this is a nation building job. There should be no, well, it's going to take this long. It should be rubber to the road. Let's get her done and get it done quick. Like, I agree. Like, you can't wait 10, 15 years and just try to pacify people a little bit like they always seem to do, throw the cookie out there and see who dives on it, But it's a look in the right direction. I gotta, at least he's talked about it, but you got to get her done.
Right.
Got to get her done.
Okay. I would just say, if you've been following our coverage, Premier Smith, no fan of Liberals in Ottawa, traditionally a big fan of this agreement today. Is there not something to that? If that's your political persuasion?
I can't stand the Liberals, Rob, but honestly, at least it's a look in the direction, and it's a positive thing. But let's see if it's just lip service or if it's let's get it done. Let's make it happen.
Right. So, okay, so you want to see, where are we in a year, or where are we in 2 years?
If it's something that's that important to you and me in our country, I don't even think it should be taking that long. I think it should be sought out. I'm sure Daniel Smith already has a lot of thought and a lot of ideas on how this should happen. And if Carney would just listen and put their heads together, then let's expedite it and get her done, Rob. Right? Get
okay. Yeah. I know. And if only it was that easy, I suppose. If only it was that easy. There are going to be roadblocks, say a pipeline to the West Coast. You do have to take into consideration the First Nations, and, they don't have a veto, but you have to meaningfully consult with them. And I'm encouraged that this MOU says there's going to be trilateral discussions, meaning it's not just Alberta has to go to BC and convince BC, but that there will be the federal government is going to play a role there. That's encouraging on that front as well.
Agree with that.
That would be my.
I think the Indigenous people and stuff will be on board as long as there's include them. Why not? But you know what? In the end, it can't be vetoed. And if it's good for Canada, then maybe you take a page out of Poilievre's book or out of Trump's book, and you do what's good for the country instead of what's good for the group for once.
Right. So, Poilievre is saying, get out of the way. Just get out of the way. You can approve this pipeline today if you wanted to. You're the federal government. You have the authority. All right. I appreciate your point. Off and running. Right direction, wrong direction. With the Alberta agreement front and center today, but we can talk about any number of other things. There's a lot more happening in the country than just that. It all depends on your perspective, of course. 1-833-668-2577. Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Right direction, wrong direction. Is Canada moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? Lidwick up next. First time caller. Lidwick, hi there.
Hey there. How are you doing, man?
Very good. Yeah. What would you say?
I think Canada in general is moving in the wrong direction, and not for the reasons that those guys said. I think Canada is moving in the wrong direction because of the rising tide of conservatism. It terrifies me, honestly, because I understand the disillusion with the liberal government. I get it, but when have conservatives ever done anything good for this country? You know, they, especially in recent years, they've clearly shown a lack of empathy towards the working class and the immigrant class and anybody who's not like them.
How so? How so?
Yeah.
How so? How so?
How so? Listen, man, like policies that they want to push, Pierre Poilievre especially, he clearly is trying. Well, like, I'll give you an example. I was looking when he was running for prime minister. I was like going through his like Instagram advertisements, and I saw one that was disparaging immigrants, comparing them to a bad roommate, and that seems disrespectful.
Really?
First off,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, like you think.
I don't know. I followed that election pretty closely, sir. I mean, every day, nonstop.
I mean, maybe,
for 38 days.
Maybe,
I can't say I recall anything like that.
I mean, hey man, I'm just relaying my experiences. You know, things happen. Maybe I'm misinterpreting a video, but I will say that, especially now, Poilievre seems to want to go through this like Trumpian kind of, you know, like campaign, and it worries me because, like, I don't know. You see this like strong manning and like Canada first kind of pushing that he's doing, and not to say that Canada shouldn't take care of its own citizens, but
right.
I don't know. I just don't trust the conservative government.
Right. Okay. There is no conservative government. You do realize that at the federal level, it's been a liberal government for the last 10 years.
Yeah. No, I mean like, yeah, no, I understand that. I meant like conservative, like party, like. Sorry about that. Miswording on my part.
Conservatives in general. Yeah. Okay. Okay. But you think it's moving in the wrong direction, and you're afraid of conservatism.
Yeah. Lack of empathy on that.
Fair enough.
Anyways, that's my thought.
Lack of empathy. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. No wrong answers. Ludwig, thank you for calling. Chris is in Calgary. Hello, Chris. Hi, Chris.
How are you?
Yeah, very good, Chris. What's your opinion? Right direction, wrong direction? Where's this country heading?
Well, I think just with the Carney announcement this morning, I think it's just smoke and mirrors. It's never going to get approval. Yeah, you know what? There's too much regulatory red tape to cross. He's just trying to appease Danielle Smith and the Albertans, but it will not go ahead and be built. No different than TMX. Faced a lot of opposition, especially from First Nations. And at the end of the day that they saw that it was going through, then they just wanted more money. And so that's exactly what's going to happen here is these projects have to, especially with First Nations around the table, they're giving them too much power and voice. And we have to sit back and look for all the Canadians, and we need to get our resources out of here and to Tidewater and over to Asia. And
Premier Smith seems to think that First Nations will want to own part of the pipeline, and in fact, that's part of the deal today. Is that they'll own part of the pipeline?
Yeah, but that's not sure they will, but we're going to give them their portion.
No, I believe it's through loan agreements. It's through loan agreements and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think we have to sit back and do what is best for Canada and each Canadian. And you know what? I know that there's a lot of environmental pushback on this, but the Canadian admissions are so low compared to everybody else out there. We need to start looking for trying to get investment out.
Okay, so not happy with today's deal. I will say Premier Smith is doing a victory lap today. I don't know what you read into that, but just more generally speaking, in 10 seconds or less, right direction, the country, do you think it's moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? Right or wrong?
Direction.
Wrong direction. Okay, just because I'm kind of keeping score here. Thank you. There you go. 2 callers say wrong direction, but for totally opposite reasons.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Well, a big deal's been announced today between Ottawa and Alberta that both the Premier of Alberta and the Prime Minister of Canada think will move Canada in the right direction. And that's our question for you today. Is Canada moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? 1-833-668-2577. I think we have one or two lines available there for you. Back to Dartmouth we go. John is up next. Hi, John.
Hello there. I think we're headed in the wrong direction.
Why is that, John?
Hello. I think we're moving in the wrong direction because we're not putting as priority our carbon-reducing goals. I think that's the most important part that our federal government can move us toward and help out that way.
Not doing enough to fight climate change, you're saying, John?
That's it. We need to make that a number one priority in my estimation.
And why do you say that, sir?
All the information that I've learned from scientists, from people who I respect and seem to be educated in the field, from what I see, the weather changes, the hurricanes, you name it. There's ample evidence, the melting poles, everything. I think that there's too much at stake to play games. We keep pushing our deadlines down the road and never accomplishing what we need to do.
Okay. If I could, just on the agreement that was announced today, John, includes, I mean, it's kind of a parallel thing. You have the oil companies in Alberta have to invest big money. I mean, big money, billions and billions of dollars into carbon capture and storage, capturing the carbon, putting it underground, that sort of technology at a massive scale. The Prime Minister said this is going to create an entirely new industry for Canada that it can then export around the world, carbon capture and storage. And if it can do that, it will be a, quote, low carbon oil, and it will make it more attractive to international buyers. What do you think about that?
Well, I'm not an engineer or a scientist, but everything that I've heard points to the direction that carbon capture is not a feasible option, that it's not workable, that it's far too expensive, that the only solution to our problem is to leave the oil in the ground.
Well, what about all the wealth that comes with that oil, sir, and the economic opportunities and the ability to pay for social welfare programs,
I understand.
education, healthcare?
But at what cost?
At what cost? Okay.
I mean, we're talking about what cost to future generations. If our world is uninhabitable or unrecognizable, if these effects of global warming, climate change, climate catastrophe, as some put it, what good will all the gold be? You know what I'm saying?
Sir. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I fully understand. I appreciate your opinion, John, in Dartmouth today. Thank you for your call. Let's go to Sunny, I believe, is up next. Sunny.
Hi, how are you today?
Yeah, very good, Sunny. Thank you. Is Canada moving in the right direction or the wrong direction?
First of all, I don't believe this Canada exists because each province is its own country. Nobody follows the Canada. What is Canada? Canada means like everybody need to grow properly. Like if Alberta is doing something, BC and Ottawa says, no, don't do that, right? I don't think why they don't refuse the money they receive from Alberta. They can't say, oh, this money comes from the pipeline. Oh, we don't want this money to be spent on our people or our health care or anything else. They're just opposing these agreements where the money comes from, and they don't want to refuse the money they are receiving that comes from Alberta. Leave that money in Alberta, then why you're taking that money, right?
Okay.
Why you're taking money from Alberta? I think it's wrong. I don't believe Canada exists anymore because each province has one country. Canada means like it's something like why the BC don't ask Alberta for their project? Oh, did they consult Alberta? Okay, I'm going to put the highway. Is that good for BC? No, right? Then why we should ask them? It's a federal jurisdiction, right? Why we ask them, okay, this pipeline is going through the BC. They don't ask us. Why should we ask them, right?
Okay.
I don't think that
if I could, Sonny, if I could, because you're suggesting it's not fair for Alberta. Alberta is getting ripped off. Alberta is sending money, to other parts of the country, and they're not grateful and they're unwilling to move projects ahead. I hear that, and I've heard that for a long time, and I appreciate that. I mean, would you support? I'm only going to ask you this because the Premier of Alberta said today she hopes this is going to quiet down the independence movement in Alberta. Would you say you support Alberta independence?
If this is the case, I think it's already divided. I don't think Alberta is asking for something. If they already throw Alberta away from the country because everybody is opposing what Alberta wants, right? It's not like Alberta wants separatism, but all other provinces throw the Alberta from Canada out.
Okay.
I think that
right.
They are pushing them toward the U.S., right? I think
Gotcha,
Canada
Sonny. Okay, we've got to go. Thank you. He certainly thinks Alberta's getting a raw deal, that's for sure. 1-833-668-2577. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Omar is in Ottawa. Omar, is Canada going in the right direction or the wrong direction? Omar, what would you say? All right, no Omar. Let's go to Hickey. Hi, Hickey.
Hey, I think it's interesting.
Hey,
John from Dartmouth said, from the environmental perspective, no one's screaming about the amount of coal that we're exporting to China, and we have to realize that if we start doing, LNG and stuff like that, India wants to buy it, China wants to buy it, everybody wants our liquefied natural gas, and then they don't have to burn coal. So that's the first thing, just to literally help from an environmental perspective, is having the right product to get to market. I don't really, I think a lot of this is smoke and mirrors, the signing today of the MOD. And part of it is because, why aren't we doing a pipeline out east through Manitoba to the Hudson's Bay? Why aren't we talking to Quebec to get all of our oil out to Eastern Canada? I feel like they did this to just appease a lot of the people that in Alberta and say, okay, well, we got this on the books. But I mean, if we truly want to be an energy superpower and we want to get our energy to the market, which we have to do, we need more than just a pipeline to a province where the, premier is screaming and yelling that it's never going to happen, because we all know it's going to be a hard go. And it makes Alberta look like the bad guys when we're trying to fight the Indigenous to get a pipeline to ocean based on the fact, maybe we have to go a different way.
Okay. So generally speaking, just more generally speaking, is the country moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? What would you say? You're a good big picture guy, Hickey. What would you say?
It's moving in the wrong direction. If you look at the last 10 years for the Liberals, they're like our investment advisor for our retirement. And you know what? In the last 10 years, they've done a really poor job. And that's the way we truly have to look at it, is how has the government taken what we have and made it better for us? There's more people in line at the food banks. There's more people that can't afford housing. What's been done? And now we're spending $78 billion, and we don't really have a plan. We don't really have anything concrete that's really going to help the people today. And for me, that's why I think that's going in the wrong direction. And I think today was to try and appease a lot of us that, want to sign the separation. And it's not that we want to separate. We just want Ottawa to listen to us. But you know what? I got to tell you, if EB's going to make it hard for us to put a pipeline through there, it's going to be really hard if Alberta ever does separate for him to, ship anything to the rest of Canada.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you, Hickey. Always good to hear from you and get your call. Look, if you're on hold, just stay on the line. We're going to bring you right up to date, including all the details that you need to know on the big signing today between Alberta and Ottawa. The Memorandum of Understanding is very important. There are a lot of things that go into that. I could run some of them down for you, not all of it. We'll have comprehensive coverage, of course, throughout the day on your news radio station. And then we'll get back to the core question. When you take it all into consideration, not just the relationship between the West and the Liberal government in Ottawa, but when you think about housing and prices at the grocery store, the situation with the man in the White House, the situation with crime and public safety and the opioid crisis and the immigration system and the healthcare system and the education system, all of this. Is this a country that's going in the right direction or the wrong direction? Have your say. 1-833-668-2577 in the second hour coming up of Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Is Canada moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? Good day to ask that, given this big deal between Ottawa and Alberta today. Let's go to Robert. He's out there in Calgary. Hi, Robert. Hi, Robert. Yeah, good to hear from you. What would you say?
I think we're moving in the right direction, Rob, just not fast enough.
Okay.
I watched the press release today. The room was full of oil and gas. It filled. Danielle Smith said it filled up within less than 24 hours. The people that wanted to be in the room. So there was lots of industry, lots of oil and gas there, lots of interested ears there. It was. I think it's a great memorandum. Again, I think we're moving in the right direction. I'd like to see it move quicker. As Danielle said, she'd just love if all the ire sayers on the talk of pipelines, as soon as you mention pipelines, would just quiet down a bit, like the Premier of BC. And the way we should word it is we're building an opportunity for Canada. This is an opportunity for Canada. Why don't we just say we're going to build an opportunity? Going to give thousands of jobs. We're going to get lots of money for this country. We're going to move our economy forward. We're going to help the world out. We're going to do all of these good things. But as soon as you mention the word pipeline, people start freaking out. And I don't know. So that's the way I think it should be phrased. Lots more money for Canada. And, of course, everybody wants that. So Danielle Smith thought it was very positive. I agree with her.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for your opinion. Robert, that's Robert. Yeah. Ken is in Cochrane. Yeah. Hi, Ken. Up next. Hi, Ken.
Hey, Rob. One of the earlier callers had mentioned, that he thinks we're going in the wrong direction. We should leave the oil in the ground. Well, we get into this whole discussion again about, if Canada leaves its oil in the ground, there are plenty of other countries out there, Venezuela, Russia, whomever, which are going to pull their oil out of the ground, even the U.S., and sell it. And we can stick our heads in the sand and say, it's so bad for the environment, but we ignore the fact that we're going to concentrate on carbon capture, innovate, and become a country that produces carbon neutral, carbon free, whatever. I'm not sure of the term oil. So what's better to have?
Well, the Prime Minister calls it low carbon. His preferred term seems to be low carbon. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's better, to have Canada sell low carbon bitumen, or to have another country sell bitumen which emits more carbon or is produced with more carbon, or doesn't offset the carbon that is required to produce it, what's better? I mean, come on. I mean, give your own country a bit of a shake here. So the other thing that I wanted to mention is that CTV had a fellow on yesterday. He was the Indigenous person who was responsible for mediating between all of the Indigenous groups with the TMX pipeline, and he was phenomenal. They only had him. They only played that once. They had him on for about 10 minutes, and I got the impression anyway that the individual that was asking the questions, the moderator, wasn't getting the salacious comments from him that they were looking for, and I only saw it aired once through that whole time period on CTV News Channel. You know how they love to regurgitate the news. Well,
I'm just curious. What was the gist of what he said? That it's not impossible?
He said it's not impossible. He said he thinks it's very doable. He believes that all people really need to understand is, there are tankers going from Alaska to the west coast of Maine, the contiguous rest of the U.S., up and down that coast all the time. Why are we banning Canadian tankers or tankers that are carrying Canadian oil, and we're ignoring those that are carrying American oil going up and down that coast? He said it doesn't really make any sense. It's sanctimonious. And, so at any rate, I think we're sort of heading in the right direction, but they also said that this has to be ready for the pathways approval in I think it was the spring of 2026. So that's only like 6 months away. And if it isn't ready to go, then I don't know whether this project will get off the ground. So there's still a lot of hurdles. So if you ask me right now, I'd have to abstain, but I think we're possibly going in the right direction.
Possibly going in the right direction. Okay. Well, that beats the alternative, I suppose. Thank you for your call, Ken in Cochrane. Be right back with more of your calls. A lot of focus today on the big deal between Ottawa and Alberta. The ink barely dry on that memorandum of understanding. But we don't have to just talk about that. You can go even bigger picture than that. Trump, trade, tariffs, the cost of living, immigration, crime. To our previous caller's point, John in Dartmouth, the fight against climate change. Are we moving in the right direction or the wrong direction in this country? Have your say on News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now
and have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Talkback. We ask this question a few times a year. We asked it about 6 months ago. Right direction, wrong direction. Is Canada moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? If it's moving in the right direction, why do you think that? If it's moving in the wrong direction, why do you think that? What could it take to turn things around, in your opinion? 1-833-668-2577. Take, for example, this MOU today between the federal Liberals in Ottawa and the Smith government, the Conservative provincial government in Alberta. Both leaders would say this is the country moving in the right direction. It's certainly top of mind for a lot of callers today, but how do you view something like that? As a step in the right direction? The wrong direction? Maybe a little from column A, maybe a little from column B. One way to look at it is by stripping out all the noise about a pipeline and just setting that aside and looking at this as more of a reset of the relationship. What I called earlier in the week a cessation of hostilities. Mark Carney in Alberta, he's given a little. The oil and gas emissions cap is basically dead and buried. That's something that Premier Smith has long called for. She's always called it a production cap. The clean electricity regulations, they're a thing of the past for Alberta. Alberta's not going to have to meet those clean electricity targets that were dreamed up by the former Environment Minister, Stephen Guilbeault, who once climbed onto the roof of Ralph Klein's house. And let's face it, is kind of public enemy number one in Alberta. So Alberta will be allowed to generate electricity from natural gas. It won't have to mothball electricity generating stations the way Guilbeault wanted them to. And Alberta thinks it will make that a more attractive jurisdiction for companies that want to open power-hungry data centers. So that's why that's seen as a big win. Now, when you include a pipeline, that's where, for a lot of people, the rubber hits the road. And the worry was the Prime Minister's pitch was going to be you can have a pipeline, but you have to invest big-time money into carbon capture and storage. And that's in there. And you have to have a more, what I would call onerous, he would call rigorous, industrial carbon tax. The industrial carbon tax was frozen at $95 a ton. That's going to have to be increased. I believe the new figure is $135 a ton. And the Prime Minister had been saying in the House of Commons, you have to convince the BC government and the coastal First Nations that this pipeline is a good idea, even though we all know, that's not on the table. Now, the language in the MOU is that there will be trilateral negotiations, which some view as a plus. Some view that as a plus. But from where I sit, I'm many thousands of kilometers away, but very interested nonetheless. There's some upside here. Maybe some downside, but you could say some steps in the right direction and some no steps at all. 1-833-668-2577. Rob is in Compier. Hi, Rob. You're up next, Rob.
How are you today? Great show,
Yeah,
Rob.
very good, Rob. Thank you.
Hats off to Danielle. Can't say thank you enough. We need big time in the oil industry, and you always have problems, but you have to work them out. But there should be more premiers like her. And it's nothing but a plus. And if we can get some railways and lines across the Churchill port or south of Churchill there to wherever it's going to go and some of these other things, I think that's great because you have to have an alternative and more ports will be better. So when they allotted money for that railway upgrade, I think that was a plus. Plus the fact that it's going to open up a lot of avenues, and I can't thank her enough.
Okay, you're very happy.
Super. Yes, very happy. We need the oil industry, and
sure.
We need the people to be able to work and the big investment with oil companies to go forward. And if some of them can't see that, well, I think they're just voting the wrong way. But that's just my opinion. But anyways, whatever. Hats off to her. And Mark, don't blow smoke up our. But anyways, I think he's done and will do. And I think we're on the right direction.
You're going in the right direction. Okay, Rob, that was going to be my next question for you. I'll wrap up our conversation there and go to Deborah, Coaldale, Alberta. Hi, Deborah. First time caller, Deborah.
Yes. Hi.
Yeah.
Hi,
Deborah.
To answer your question, I wish our current Prime Minister was a little more fiscally conservative, but I do believe he's the right politician for these times. I think these are really challenging times. And I admire that he's reaching out globally. I think that will help us be safer. I admire that what he's trying to do with the military. I think it's difficult when there's so little money to go around at this time and probably less in the future to have the courage to move forward and say we need to invest and protect our country because we're practically defenseless at this time. I love the fact that he wants to start a volunteer standing force. I don't know how he's going to convince citizens to do that, but I think it's a fantastic idea. And I also love that he's engaging the premiers and that he's engaging Indigenous leadership. I am a true centrist. Like anytime I poll myself, I'm in the middle. So I do try to see all the different sides of the equation, and in the work I do in healthcare, I really do need to be neutral. And so I hope I'm giving it a fair shake.
Sure.
I can see the values of both sides. And I do wish he was more conservative fiscally. I think he's taking huge risks at leveraging debt to the extent that he's doing. And I think that's maybe what he was up to when he was making all these trips abroad, trying to find money to build Canada. It's a huge risk, and I hope it pays off. But I think these are really challenging times, and I can't imagine anyone else leading us through these perilous times more successfully based on what we had to choose.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Deborah, yep, good to take your call today. Generally positive view of the way things are going right now. A challenging time. Perhaps wish the Prime Minister had a tighter grip on the purse strings, maybe. Be right back. Right direction, wrong direction. What's your opinion? Where's this country going? This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Is Canada moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? John, up next in Calgary today. Hi, John.
Hey, Rob. I think we're moving in the right direction, but the wrong way of doing it.
Okay. Why do you say that? That's very interesting.
Okay. I'm an ex-Special Forces officer, retired. I work very closely with oil and gas. I do threat, risk, and vulnerability assessments for many oil companies. And if that MOU actually turns into a project with spades in the ground and moving forward through agreements with First Nations, agreements eventually through the province of BC, whether or not Mr. EB is still there or otherwise, moving past environmentalist opposition, we're going to see a very, very difficult job for the people who are deployed on the ground, the teams that are building the pipeline against environmental groups, pressure groups, disrupting the process, disrupting the project, damaging the project. The cost will increase exponentially. The ability of Danielle Smith to kick the door open in Ottawa is absolutely amazing, and I commend her. I don't believe, however, there is full sincerity on Ottawa's part. If there were full sincerity in Carney's original assessment of taking on the role of Prime Minister at a time when tariffs were crippling our country, his posture of elbows up, I would look at more appropriate as being it should be fixed bayonets. It has to be, the project has to go into the ground within the year. It has to start right now, this day, investments coming in this day. It has to get agreements this day. We can't afford to wait because you're not going to deal with America anymore, not in the same way that we ever did. And we cannot be dependent on America. We can't depend upon them for oil, for delivering our oil. We can't depend upon them for military protection. We can't depend upon them for anything. And the only thing that they can depend on south of the line is an eventual civil war because they have polarized so radically.
Okay.
So,
all right. But you're predicting for a project, for a project to the West Coast, for example, not just protests, but you're suggesting things like sabotage or maybe even eco-terrorism. Hey, you're seeing that, the potential for that.
We have activity similar to that being threatened on an almost weekly basis. We have had to do it. When TMX was going through, they attacked the base camp of TMX. They destroyed equipment. They threatened people with guns and with axes. They damaged equipment. They damaged the pipelines. This is all history. And if you don't think history repeats itself, look at Mr. Trump and look at Adolf Hitler.
Okay. Well, all right. A conversation for another day. I'm going to have to wrap up our conversation there. Thank you, though. Very interesting perspective. Chris is in Kitchener. Hello, Chris. Hi, Chris.
Hello, Rob. How are you?
Very good, Chris. Thank you. What's your opinion? Right direction, wrong direction?
Is, the right direction. It's not too late, but yes, the right direction. My opinion, it's a no-brainer. If we can be elbows up, and the last caller, I agree with it. We have to be prepared for such people that are going to be against it, like the environmentalists.
Right. Opposition. Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. But there was a previous caller that was talking about the environment. And I'm all, climate change and all that is fine. And I agree with it. But what's the reality of it? I mean, Trudeau brought in the carbon tax and everything else. And we're looking at high food prices because of it and everything else. It was too much too soon. I mean, I believe if we have if we start now with what we're doing, linking sea to sea, east to west, I think that's the right direction.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your call in Kitchener today. We'll be right back with more of your calls on whether the country is moving in the right direction or the wrong direction today on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Is the country moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? Let's ask Brad up next on Talkback. Hi, Brad.
Hello.
Hi, Brad. What would you say?
Hi, Rob. Oh, well, as an old-time Calgarian here, I think it's too little. I think it's a hollow promise. And I think that of our 9 demands, top on the list was an end to equalization. If we were to see that, that would be a $40 billion boost for Alberta, and that's $40 billion less oil and gas that we have to produce. That's less pipelines. That's less problem all the way around. So that's what I think. I think that first and foremost, it should be an end to equalization. Then let's talk about the rest.
Okay.
And, honestly, we will get a better deal out of Washington than we will ever get out of Ottawa.
Why do you say that?
Well, because they want our oil. I think that if we were the 51st state, we wouldn't have this trouble putting out pipelines.
Okay. You'd rather be an American?
Canada hates us. The rest of Canada hates Alberta. For 45 years, we've been battling this crap. I mean, I've been pounding the reform drum all this time. And, I think I'd rather be an American.
Really? Wow. Okay. Well, I will say that, the premier, very, very happy today and really doing a victory lap. And on social media, her chief of staff called it a landmark agreement, no oil and gas production cap, no net zero power regulations, 1 million barrels per day via new pipeline to Asian markets, a 400,000 barrel per day expansion of the TMX, and deep water port access for oil tankers off the West Coast. Rob Anderson's very happy today, but you're not?
I don't think we're going to see all that come to fruition.
No, eh? Okay.
I mean, we might. Well, we'll see more oil going down the Trans Mountain, but there are so many hurdles to overcome to get a pipeline to the coast, and then to ever drop that tanker ban. That's enormous. I mean, that's enormous. Wouldn't we be better off just to end equalization? I mean,
good luck with that. Good luck with that.
Pardon me?
All right. Good luck with that.
Okay.
I think there aren't. I mean, let's face it. How many have provinces are there? Alberta, Saskatchewan. These are the have provinces. I think BC and Newfoundland and Labrador 4. You outvoted already, right?
But isn't
I'm not saying it's fair. No, I'm not saying it's fair. Ontario is considered a have-not for equalization purposes. Yeah, and Quebec, of course, is the biggest have-not of them all. So worst of the worst, the poorest of the poor.
The provinces that have
needs the most equalization, right? Yeah.
So
okay. I know you view it as unfair. I'm just saying. I don't know. On a day like today, where the premier is so happy, maybe take your wins where you can get them, because what you're dreaming about there in an end to equalization, I mean, my gosh, pigs would have to fly before we'll ever see that happen. 1-833-668-2577. More of your calls after the news on News Radio.
Something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
So a lot of focus today as we ask our question, do you think Canada is moving in the right direction or the wrong direction on the deal between Ottawa and Alberta? You can go beyond that if you want to. There are a lot of other issues that go into that question. You know, the cost of living, housing affordability, food prices, Trump, crime, public disorder, public safety, the immigration system, the healthcare system, the education system. You take it all together. You can take it all in. 1-833-668-2577. Let's get back to our phone lines here. I think we have Brad up next. Hi, Brad. Hello, Brad. All right, Zach. Let's try Zach then. Hi, Zach.
Hey, Rob.
Hi, Zach. Yeah. What would you say, Zach?
I'm cautiously optimistic about this deal between Canada and Alberta.
Okay.
You know, I've personally been let down so profoundly by the Liberal government, not to mention the generational damage inflicted upon my grandparents by Pierre Trudeau. But we'll see what happens.
Okay.
As for Canada going in the right direction, if I'm being honest, the further I zoom out, the less optimistic I am, which is funny because my day-to-day personal life, I'm actually a very happy and hopeful person.
Okay.
But all those things that you mentioned right off the top there.
What has you contemplating things?
I mean, in the kind of short-term view, the crime, the way the economy is being managed, those things. But I mean, if you want to completely zoom out as far as possible, I do think unless we address, our shared culture collapsing and our birth rates plummeting, I don't see how Canada doesn't continue to devolve into Balkan states.
Okay.
That's just my personal opinion. But that's zooming out. Like when you're thinking about, 150, another 200 years of Canada existing, my great grandchildren, right?
Okay. Yeah. So you're worried about things like a loss of common culture, common identity, common traditions, those sorts of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the collapsing birth rate just magnifies that and kind of speeds it up.
All right, Zach, thank you. Let's go to JW up next. Hi, JW.
Hi, good afternoon, Rob. Good afternoon,
Yeah, good
Rob.
to hear from you. What would you say?
So I am currently also a post-secondary student in Calgary, and I will say that we were going off the crazy rails, but now we're sort of heading back to the right track.
Okay. Why do you say that?
Well, under Trudeau's Liberal government, I feel there has been a bit too much immigration. Like, I have nothing against legal immigration. I feel like it helps a lot. But, especially across post-secondary schools, more primarily in Ottawa, we saw the degree mills, those fake universities where we would just accept, like, people from all over the world, and then they wouldn't even, finish the studies. And,
diploma mills. Yeah, diploma mills.
Sorry, yes, diploma mills. Please correct me. Thank you. But yeah, so to kind of agree with the last caller, yes, I feel like sometimes the over immigration and the excess of too many international students, which, well, now we place the cap on, which is great. But sometimes it does, I feel like degrade our common, Canadian identity at times, which, you should be able to bring your culture and celebrate them and be proud of them in Canada, and we want to share them. But to when you use that and to disturb other people's rights of peace and stuff, that's when it gets too much for me. Especially I've seen it at my school, and I've seen it all over with Alberta's teacher strikes. There's too many kids and there's not enough supports for ESL, and it's a lose-lose for both the teachers and for the kids. It's just too overwhelming.
All right. Thank you. JW thinks it going off the crazy rails, but we're being re-railed now, I guess you could say. All right. Thank you. Interesting way to look at things. Let's go to Lethbridge. Alan is up next. Hi, Alan.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call.
You're welcome, Alan. What's your opinion?
Yeah, my opinion was following up on the pipelines coming up. Basically, the price of oil has been low for quite a while, and possibly will stay low for the near future. And sending oil down to the United States is they're ripping us off, as you know, for what we're sending them. But one thing about these new pipelines, the coast of British Columbia is very difficult waters, as you know. The reason why they have a tanker ban is because at the very north coast of British Columbia is dangerous, and the chance for spills are huge.
I don't know how accurate that is. I mean, there's a write-up in the newspaper today about separating myth from reality when it comes to that particular waterway. And as it's been pointed out, even the former Premier of British Columbia, Christy Clark, I believe, was the first person of prominence to note that David Eby's not telling the whole story there. And there are tankers that are coming from Alaska down to the U.S. West Coast all the time.
Well, as you know,
from Alaska.
As you know, the international waters is Alaska is far more west than the inlet. The pipeline would have to be built through the inlet where the problem is of terrible waters, as you may have heard, and people are it's been studied that you can't, the waters are quite dangerous right in the inlet part, and that's exactly what you'd have to cross first to get into international waters. The tankers that come down from Alaska go far west along international waters and then down to the States. They do not come close to the coast in any way. It's
okay.
There's a
all right. So you
difference.
think that particular project is too environmentally risky?
Definitely, and as you know, the pipeline the pipeline that comes in right now is far south, closer to Vancouver. That's where the waters are stable. They do not cross the inlet between close to the coast. In order to get these pipes through that inlet, that's where the problem is, and it's been studied. It's been warned. There's just no way they can put a northern pipeline in there. If anything, it's they have encouraged to twin the existing pipeline along the south shores, which is safe, and otherwise, I'm sure that everybody would be just fine with pipelines going through the other side. But all the studies,
No.
the warnings.
Nobody's ever fine. Nobody's ever fine when the word pipeline is used. Not everyone is fine when the word pipeline is used. It could be the safest pipeline in the world, sir. It could go from my house to my neighbor's house. If it's a pipeline, people will be worried about it. But I do thank you for your call. I think you're overhyping the reality, the dangers of that particular waterway. I think there's more fiction in there than truth based on what I've read. 1-833-668-2577. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
So we're asking today, do you think Canada's moving in the right direction or the wrong direction with the deal, the MOU that's been signed today between Ottawa and Alberta? Avi Lewis, who is certainly one of the better known people in the current NDP leadership campaign, thinks this is a massive step in the wrong direction for the country, just releasing a statement on social media that says, Mark Carney has betrayed all of us. Wow. Mark Carney has betrayed all of us by making a pipeline pact with Danielle Smith. A real nation-building project would expand the renewable energy of the future while creating thousands of jobs. Power lines, not pipelines. We will stand up for Indigenous rights, for our coast, for our country. We will fight to protect the places we love, like our lives depend on it, because they absolutely do. Avi Lewis, who could be not a sure thing, but has as good a shot as anyone, I suppose, the next leader of the federal New Democrats. He ran for the New Democrats in the last federal election, but lost to a Liberal in the Vancouver area. Kenny is in Nova Scotia today. Hi, Kenny.
Rob, how did you get such a good job here getting all the hot topics going and people trying to come up
just
with...
luck of the draw, sir. Luck of the draw. Luck of the draw. Yeah.
Well, are we going in the right direction or the wrong direction? I have to ask myself that all the time. If I'm going in the right direction, because I often look back and say, well, that wasn't sustainable.
Right.
Humans in general, not just Canadians, I guess we get so heavily invested in the direction that we get going in that it's really, really hard to take a look and see if this is really good. But we all want everything to be affordable. I think if we have everything getting hotter and hotter, that's in the wrong direction. I mean, lately I think that things are on fire a lot, and wells are going dry, and it might be getting harder to farm pretty soon. That'll put prices up, not down. I don't have a choice right now. None of the energy companies have a choice that's zero emissions right now. I know because they're heavily invested in the way we're going. I know of something that started an internal combustion hydrogen engine. Like it's just exactly like a diesel. It's got the same block as the diesel, but the whole top of it's completely for hydrogen. Got a higher turbo, bringing more air into it. It's approved in Europe, and they're putting them out. And this is about the third generation of the engine that is approved for. We should be manufacturing them here, and we could make hydrogen just about anywhere where there's water and electricity.
Yeah.
And we could be manufacturing.
But if there's a market for it, Kenny, if there's a market for it, they would be building them, wouldn't they? If people wanted to buy them.
Well, people don't trust it yet. They didn't see it working, but it probably has to start a little bit small. Right. I mean, but this, and there's also liquid hydrogen available, or not, it's going to be available. And the price is going to, make a difference too. But what's the price of heating this planet up so much? I mean, we don't think that we're heating it up much at 1 degree,
1 degree. Now, we're talking the average temperatures all around the world at any given time, as in the run of a year. And you're only talking 1 degree. Well, you go outdoors, you can't tell the difference between 1 degree if you're above zero, right? But you're talking 1 degree of all the air around the planet, 1 degree of all the land surface around the planet, all the ocean around the planet.
Okay.
Now you're talking a lot of volume, a lot of energy, and that energy can make storms, and we don't know how high the wind can get. Okay, that's my comment.
Right. So you're concerned about the environmental costs, the impact on the fight against climate change, those sorts of things. You're not the first caller to bring that up today, Kenny. Thank you. I think leaning towards the wrong direction for Kenny. 1-833-668-2577 as we get ready to wind things down here for Talkback for today. Still time to fit you in and get your opinion, though. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
So again, we've been asking, is the country moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? What do you think? A lot of people with a lot of opinions on the deal between Ottawa and Alberta, with some people thinking that's a step in the right direction. Others want to see action more than words. But certainly Premier Smith and Prime Minister Carney, who's speaking at the Calgary Chamber of Commerce right now, they both think that it's a step in the right direction for the country. Let's go to Bob, I believe, is up next. Bob?
Hey, Mr. Snow, how are you today?
Yeah, very good. Thank you, sir. Just Rob is fine. Yeah, thank you.
Before I give you my opinion of a 70-plus-year-old person, I wanted to help the young man that called that said all the tankers are going to go aground in the interior strait between Vancouver Island and the mainland. The truth of the fact is that Prince Rupert, there's a couple ways of getting out of Prince Rupert, like there's a couple ways of getting out of Ketchikan, which a number of oil tanker ships port out of, and that's to go around the island or Graham Island through either the Dixon entrance or the Mosby Canyon area through Hiccup Strait. And then you're out into the big ocean, as he said. And that's true that the big tankers and the main tankers coming out of the Port of Valdez do hit the main ocean. But coming out of an area like Ketchikan or Prince Rupert, which are next door neighbors, it's like somebody that lives across the street from you, they would be able to get out into the big ocean without having to go between Vancouver Island and Vancouver mainland. And that's a rumor that people are putting through. Now, as a 70-plus-year-old guy who's been in Canada all my life, my opinion is I don't think that looking at $69 million in a budget debt is moving us in the right direction. However, for young people in Canada who don't feel that having a massive debt is a problem, they think that Canada's going along quite well. And it's just the perspective of people my age always wanted to have money before we went out and bought a new car or whatever. And people today are willing to put everything on credit and have a $69 billion debt. And it's just how you look at it. And is it wrong? Well, for Canada today, I don't think it is wrong because the majority of Canadians that voted thought that it would be good to have a government that's willing to run a $69 billion debt.
Okay, sir. Thank you. You'll get the last word today. Thank you, Bob. Very interesting and very informative as well. Thank you for all of your calls. Thank you for taking part in the discussion today. Tomorrow, being Friday, we will do the Friday free-for-all, so we'll leave the topics up to you. We'll have some conversation starters to kind of get things going, but if you want to start a conversation of your own, it's always an adventure during the Friday free-for-all. It's been a very busy news day. We will bring you right up to date. Coming up next, here on News Radio.